Commercial real estate is changing, and the change is accelerating. Get ready to reimagine, improve, and elevate the world of commercial real estate with the right technology to power your strategy.
Hello, everybody. Good to be here with you. My name is Jim Young, and you are listening to Realcomm Live. We have got a great show today, and it's exciting for a couple of reasons. We've got two great guests. We've got Kimberly Bertz, who's the Vice President of Workplace Services and Experience for Wells Fargo, and we've got Thano Lambrinos, Vice President of Smart Building Technology and Digital Innovation for QuadReal. And what makes this segment so interesting is, as we always try to do, is we're going to have both a landlord and a tenant perspective talking about technology and the impact on buildings, and specifically as it's looking at COVID and reentry into offices. But having the ability to have both perspectives in on the conversation, I think is going to be very interesting. We usually split the segments up in two. Today, we're going to have one long segment with a commercial break in the middle, but I thought it was valuable to have both of them in on the conversation. So with that, I would like to bring in our two guests and welcome them to the show. Kimberly, how are you?
Hi, Jim. I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. And Thano, how about you?
Fantastic. This is, it's always fun to do these with you, Jim.
Yeah, you just never know what's going to happen, right? We are live. And right before we're getting ready to go on, my screen went dead, so I had to log back in. So those are the realities of live television, if you will. Well, really good to have both of you, and not just because you represent super great brands, sophisticated, successful, forward-thinking corporate real estate organization and a commercial owner, but because both of you lean in to the idea of innovation, technology, breaking norms, trying to figure out where the world's going. And we've had, relationships with both your organizations for easily, 10 years. And it's just a pleasure to have an ongoing conversation with both of you. So thanks for being here. Let's start out, Kimberly, with you, and just give everybody, obviously everybody knows Wells Fargo is a major bank, but give us a few data points on, the size of the organization and real estate, square footage, employees, if you could.
Sure. Happy to. So first off, I just want to thank you for having me and also congratulate you on the fantastic hybrid event for Realcomm. It was fantastic to be a part of, and it's amazing to see how all of our organizations are coming up with new ways of doing things in this.
Yeah, that was a crazy one. No doubt.
In this crazy pandemic world, exactly. So yes, as you mentioned, I'm part of the Wells Fargo corporate properties team. Wells Fargo, obviously, most people probably know and see the branches, the community banking branches around the country. So we have about 5,000 branches, but we also have quite a large administrative office portfolio. So in total, we're about 78 million square feet, and we've got about 275,000 employees that sit both in the branches and in the administrative portfolio. So we have a lot to think about, right, from a COVID and pandemic planning perspective, as well as future of work. We have to make sure that we're keeping, the branches have to be open. We have to be able to serve customers. And so therefore we have to make sure that those employees and the customers are safe, but also the essential employees that are providing all those key back office functions as well in the administrative office space. So we have a big responsibility.
Well, and it's good to have someone who's got an organization of that size, because, COVID response does not fit, one size does not fit all. Small organizations, more agile, easier to control, is much different than an organization with the number of employees you do. So you have to look at this thing from a lot of different vantage points, and a large corporate occupier like you has a lot of moving pieces that we'll discuss. So Thano, a little bit about QuadReal.
Yeah, for those who aren't familiar, we're only about just over 4 years old now, wholly owned by BCI. We manage about $44 billion in assets, and that shakes down to around 40 million square feet in Canada, 10,000 residential units. That 40 million square feet is broken up across office, retail, and industrial asset classes. Internationally, through partnerships, we've got just around 79 million square feet. Some data center assets and alternative assets in the U.S. and all over the globe, and around 35,000 residential units. So we're a developer, investment, and real estate management company, and my group is part of in the sites, working with the front lines, working on new developments and implementing technologies. And as you've alluded to, COVID has taken over literally everything we do. But as we'll talk about, it's very interesting that a lot of the technologies that we were deploying and implementing anyway have helped us through this.
So, rewind the clock a little bit. Last year in June in Nashville, one of our largest events, 2,500 people from around the world, innovation moving at a really good clip, smart building conversation, moving at a good pace. And then all of a sudden COVID hits and the entire world gets a lesson in work from home and digital transformation. And even those CEOs who were the most staunch, didn't want people working from home, had no choice but to figure it out, right? And so here we are, I think digital transformation accelerated probably 5 years into 5 months, right? Because we had no choice. But on the topic of, getting back into the office, Kimberly, from a corporate perspective, where are you guys and what is the corporate world, the occupier world thinking about as it relates to getting people back into the office in a meaningful way?
Right. So for us, it's really a balance of worker safety, employee safety, and wanting to bring people back for that magic that happens in the office, right? For that collaboration, for the just the spark that you have when you have people together. So for that reason, we have spent quite a bit of time focusing on just a core safety framework first and foremost. If we don't nail that, the rest of it doesn't matter. And now that we've got those basic elements like all of the right, social distancing, we've got signage, we've got the safety equipment and the PPE in the buildings. Now we can start to think about, okay, so what's the future of work? What do people actually want to come back to? Do they want to come back to the same workplace that they left in March and the same environment of, the cubicles and the offices? Or do we have an opportunity to really accelerate into the future of work and do something differently? So what you're seeing here on the screen is actually sort of the perfect example of all of the best, hopefully the best and the brightest in terms of our workplace experience and the workplace design. We know that we need to create workspaces that support collaboration. We're moving in a direction of agile work. We need to have things in a manner that are open enough and, we can easily clean, we can come in and we can reconfigure, and that can flex. If we're bringing back people at scale, if we're bringing back small teams, that they have ways to work in safe environments. So these photos are from one of our newest buildings that we've taken the opportunity to really finish the build out during this period of time where people are home. And we've got what we call neighborhoods. So instead of having fixed workstations, we're creating areas that as people come back, they can collaborate. They can enjoy the social aspects of the office, right? That's one of the things that we've heard loud and clear. It's not that I necessarily need to come back into the office, for a space to get my heads down work or my deliverable, but I want to be able to grab coffee with a colleague and talk about a project, or, have meetings, or maybe just even that casual kind of water cooler type of conversation. So we're thinking about that a lot more and making sure that we're building and preparing that into the go forward offices as we're readying them. So safety and experience, we're making sure are, just hand in hand part of our roadmap.
You brought up a great point, the socialization aspect of work. We really never thought about it. But if you think about, 40, 50, 60 hours a week doing your job, compared to the number of hours you spend with your kids at night doing an hour or so of homework or, going to a softball practice, or the time you spend with your friends on the weekend, maybe at a golf game or a tennis game, you really do socialize the most in your work environment, right? And I think what this has taught us is, yeah, we can do the down and dirty work from anywhere. Give me a laptop and an internet connection, but it's that socialization that creates those bonds of trust, and I think then encourages the creativity that I think is really going to be front and center in people's minds going forward. Yeah.
Absolutely. In all of our employee surveying and the pulses that we're doing, that's what we're hearing. People aren't, they're not saying I need to come back to have a desk or a network connection. I mean, in rare cases, you have certain very specific needs, but for the most part, it's a lot of the intangibles. It's the, it's the human connection that we've learned is so important this year.
Yep. All right. So Thano, you're on the other side. You've got your people coming, back into your offices. That's one side of the story. But the other side is your tenants, right? Yeah, coming back, the Wells Fargos of the world, if you will. How can you give me first a little idea on how your organization's getting back in, and then also what you're seeing with your tenants?
Yeah, it's slow. Let's be realistic here. There's second and third waves plaguing North America and all over the world. So it's slow, but what we do have is an opportunity to help Kim get exactly what she needs as a tenant and deliver that as from a landlord perspective. And that is to create that safe, healthy, and trusted environment. And really what we're doing is breaking down the traditional tenant landlord barriers and figuring out how we can collaborate to realize those outcomes. So things like using enabling technologies to allow Kim to have more control of the systems within the tenant spaces that typically landlords wouldn't want to give that much control over to their tenants before. Right. So that they can enable those use cases and allow those collaborative spaces and still do things like ensure the right amount of fresh air is pushed into the space and ensure that energy is optimized while maximizing wellness and getting visibility and transparency into actual conditions of the office. So those are the big focuses for us, and making sure that we enable the tenant spaces appropriately so they can realize those outcomes, and really creating, communities where you can't really be together. So digital platforms are so important to supplement that social interaction that everybody's craving. So, right. So we've focused a lot on that from a front of house perspective, and then from a back of house perspective, try to manage a building when you can't be there. So there's a lot that's going into that we'd had planned well before COVID hit, but now, there's a brick on the gas, and we have to move quickly to get this stuff done so we can facilitate. And I think we've done a fantastic job, and our frontline teams and our operations teams have done a fantastic job in getting our tenants and our occupants the information that they need and the transparency that they're looking for to make them feel safe and comfortable getting back into the office. But that's really our main focus as a landlord, is we've got to make sure that we facilitate what our tenants and our occupiers need to come back so they can see each other again, and they can work with each other again, and they can grow their businesses and be innovative. Because I'm sorry, that's not happening over Teams and Zoom. It's happening to an extent.
We're biological beings, and we were not designed to sit in front of a computer terminal all day.
No, not at all. Like, you can't. There's, like Kimberly talked about it. We're feeling the same things. We want to get together and we want to socialize. And obviously, there's a pandemic happening, so it's very difficult to do. But we're doing our best to make it as safe as we can.
Kim, real quick on the corporate side, now that the home is becoming a viable option for some component of work, does the corporation or the employer start to move into the house a little bit and say maybe they'll help with broadband, or you have to have a certain standard for broadband, and oh, by the way, we have a security requirement now that the enterprise is going into the house?
I'd say that's a topic that's really developing as we speak, and in large part because when we sent people home, I don't think anyone would have guessed that this would be as long as it is, right? It was a month, 2 months, so just make it work. Now what we're realizing is this could be for the longer term. We're seeing in our case, there are some of our teams, some of our lines of business are saying, this might work for the longer term. And others are saying, we actually really want to continue to have an office first posture. So for that reason, we're definitely, we're wrestling with that topic. What does that look like? How do we best support our employees, but also make sure that our end game post-vaccine, once we're at a truly safe point, we really want to make sure that the office is the primary place of work. And of course, like you mentioned, security. So, information security, cybersecurity, all of those are factoring in large ways. So we've done a lot to make sure that we're beefing up our network, that our, all of the security measures are in, full force, and that anything that has to happen, and there are roles that have to happen in the office for that precise reason. So because of that, that's why we do have what we call, a group of essential employees that are still in the office. And it was, as you weigh the risk of sending everyone home, there are certain areas that we want to make sure we're protecting that customer data, we're protecting the enterprise itself. So it's something that we're constantly looking at.
I remember the first business continuity plan we put in place for one of my companies. This is going back 23, 4 years, was everybody had a laptop. Our entire enterprise was cloud-based, and we had redundancy between different cloud locations. And in the event of an event, you picked up your laptop, which was your local file cabinet, and you went home. And at that point, we had a requirement that most of our employees had very good broadband at home. So we actually had, during 9/11, we sent everybody home, and there was not a missed minute of business activity. I mean, to just literally take my laptop, go home, plug it in, up to the cloud, and away you went. So again, this has been evolving over the last 15, 20 years, and this pandemic has just brought it right to the surface. So let's take a brief break here. We're going to hear from one of our great sponsors, Real Foundations, and then when we come back on the other side, we will talk about some technology that's going into these buildings to meet these objectives.
Real Foundations is a professional services firm focused on helping companies that develop, own, operate, or invest in real estate make smarter, more profitable decisions. From the building itself to the way it's developed, operated, and capitalized, no firm understands the inner workings of the entire real estate ecosystem as well as Real Foundations. We make real estate run better.
All right, we're back, and let's bring Kimberly and Thano back. There you guys are. So let's kind of focus a little bit on the technology side of this. We were just touching about the office technology now actually can reach into the homes, but let's talk specifically about the built environment, and that actually breaks into a couple different categories. One is the health and safety part. The COVID, right? We want to make sure that we can do everything that's humanly possible to make sure the air is fresh, and people who aren't sick, maybe we catch them at the door. And then the other side of it that is getting a little less press, but I think is equally as important, is the experience. And we touched about it a little bit, but if I go back to that old cube farm, I may not get in the car and drive 2 hours in traffic if there's nothing there that's either better or worse, than I can experience at home. So Thano, why don't we start with you? Can you give us an idea of some of the technologies that you're putting in place to try to address this fast-track digital transformation?
So you said it. Why am I going to get the train or get onto the subway and come to the office? How do we communicate all of the great things that are potentially happening at the sites? And everybody's been talking about and deploying tenant applications. We've done the same. We've built and deployed QuadReal Plus, which is our tenant experience app. And there's a few things in here that are, I think, a little bit different than what you're seeing from most. And that is not only the community element, the events, what's happening. We're doing a lot of digital events now, a lot of things online for very obvious reasons. We've got what we call the Quad, which is our weekly newsletter that allows us to connect digitally to the occupants of our building and create this community where it's tough to maintain that community when you can't be at the building. We're trying to get our retailers back on their feet through integrations with Ritual to really push that F&B ordering and to make it easier for tenants that are in the building to connect with the retailers. But this digital platform is incredibly important and to really get people back and to get people communicating together and interested. And like I said, the one thing that we're doing really differently is we're integrating it with a lot of our building systems. So how many people are actually coming into the office? How many people are in the office? What's the air quality like? We're starting to make that. We've always done a great job with healthy buildings, but we're trying to make it more transparent for our users and for our tenants and for our occupants so that they feel safe and they feel comfortable coming back.
So, Kimberly, when you're looking for space for Wells Fargo in this new normal, you go into a building like Thano's and you see all this preventative measures and this proactive, does that influence your decision to take space in that building?
Oh, certainly. I mean, we want to make sure that we're always working with the right partners who are like-minded, right? That, like I mentioned, we have safety as sort of the first pillar, right? That's the basic, and then experience. And so when we're finding those opportunities to make sure that we've got the right safety measures in place and that that our partners, that our landlords are focusing on that just makes the rest of the work so much easier, because we can say that's one of the foundational pieces that we then don't have to worry about.
Right.
And the employee experience, I think I can't overstate how important that is. We know that, going forward, employees have choice. We've taught them that this year, right? We've made this really quick pivot of you have to work from home for many people. And what that shows us is employees have choice. So we need to make the experience of coming back seamless. Technology is evolving in a way so quickly. If I can do things from my phone in my personal life, my expectation becomes I should be able to do that at work, right? It shouldn't be like I'm only able to do all these cool things, from my phone in my personal life. So we're just trying to figure out, how do you merge that? What is the experience? Like Thano mentioned, the food and beverage ordering. The more I can do touchless, the more I can do my health screening. I can find my seat from my phone. That's a safety measure, but it's an experience measure. So to the extent that we're finding those merge, even better, right? Our employees like that. That's what they want.
Yeah. Well, and you talk about flexibility. We had a partner call the other day, and one of our partners literally did the Teams call from the front seat of her car while she was dropping her daughter at soccer. And, the video was on and, she was in the meeting. I mean, and it's only going to get better and faster. So this distinction between, technology and space, it's just going away. And that's going to be, a challenge as well as opportunities for building owners to do that. So, Thano, we're running out of time, but I do want you to touch a little bit on the occupancy and analytics part of your story. I know you guys are doing a lot of work on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as Kimberly alluded to, it's about making our tenants feel safe. And obviously, why have buildings? They're for people. And how do we best manage them is we understand how many people are in the buildings and where they are in the buildings and how they're flowing through the buildings. So this was always of interest before. And what you're seeing on the screen is some of the analytics from some of our buildings, not exactly big numbers from an occupancy perspective. That is a screenshot from just the other day. But we've deployed this technology throughout our portfolio now, and we're counting people in and out and then communicating that back to the user so that they can make decisions. Is it safe to go down to the food court? What's the density look like? Is it safe to use the amenities? Right now, they're not open for us here in Canada, but they will be soon, and they're going to be looking for that information. On the indoor environmental quality side, on the IEQ side, there's, we need to be, again, we've always had fantastic and healthy buildings, but we need to be more transparent now. So we've, as you can see on the screen, we've implemented environmental 24/7, 365 IoT tracking of 15 different environmental metrics that we are now starting to integrate into our QuadReal Plus environment and into, of course, our base building operations environment, which is, of course, becoming more converged and more remote enabled, just like people are working from home on the enterprise side. We have to give the same opportunity to the building side. There is no history of cloud redundant cloud connectivity of building systems. It just
No.
wasn't anything that existed. And now we are hyper accelerating towards that end. So yeah, there's a lot that we're doing in the buildings to help Kimberly realize her use cases and her outcomes as a tenant, but also, selfishly to be able to better manage our facilities. And this has really been, the silver lining. It's allowed us to do things like this and integrate building systems so our operators can operate remotely, and we can best manage the facility if we don't have the opportunity to actually be there.
Yeah, I give you a lot of credit for leaning in at a time when most are not. I think you've told me we're going to take advantage of this downtime and get everything ready, and the fact that you were well on the way in your journey to begin with made it a lot easier for you. QuadReal has done a really good job. So we are unfortunately out of time, but I do want to take 30 seconds if you guys could wrap up. Kimberly, what do you say to your landlords moving forward in this journey? And then I'm going to ask Thano the same thing the other way.
I think I'd say thank you. It's been a rough year, and we've really appreciated the partnership. We're learning from our landlords. We're working with them to enhance the safety measures and the experience. What I've seen is we're working in a more collaborative way than we ever have. That's maybe one of the silver linings of this. So I hope that's a trend that will continue, well after the pandemic. But I think what I would really just say is thank you for the partnership.
Thano, how about the other way?
You know what? The exact same thing. We're not giving our tenants and our customers and our occupants empty boxes anymore. It is a collaboration. It is a partnership. We need to work together. There was a magnifying glass put on it because of COVID and because of the pandemic. We were always working together before, but never quite like this. And it's shown us how valuable that can be for the occupants when tenants, landlords work hand in hand to deliver safe, healthy, trusted buildings. So we're going to keep that going well beyond, hopefully this thing ends soon, but well beyond its conclusion, well after the pandemic's over. We're going to make sure as a landlord that we offer all the services that we need to be able to make our tenants and our occupants successful.
Awesome. Well, both of you, thank you so much. I know how busy your schedules are and your responsibilities. Really appreciate, not just for this episode, but for a lot of support for a long time from both organizations. The companies have been great to us. You guys have been great to us. And I just want to say thank you for that. Have a great day. Be well and thrive. That's my new saying. Thrive.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. Be well. Take care. All right. Well, that was a great conversation with two great people. And with that, I'm going to bring on my partner, Howard Berger, and he's going to bring us up to speed on the weekly news of real estate technology. There you are. How are you, my friend?
Hey, thanks, Jim. I'm well. So for the news, here are a couple of tidbits from our weekly news briefing, which goes out every Thursday, about 11 a.m. Pacific. So our lead story this week comes from Claire Curtin and Hannah Kramer from the Lawrence Berkeley National Labs, and it's on the Department of Energy's Better Buildings program. They have a smart energy analytics campaign that's been collecting energy data from about 200,000 square feet of commercial buildings in the U.S., really to measure the effectiveness of energy management systems. They just released this data to the public, and it is the most comprehensive data set ever assembled on the impact of energy management systems. The resulting analytics clearly define how energy management, fault detection, and BAS supervisory controls can work together to directly contribute to energy savings. It references studies from Jamestown and LBA Realty, who are working with Aquacore and Yardi Pulse respectively, and how they achieved significant savings, sometimes up to 21% in some buildings using energy management system installations. So this incredible data set's available to building owners and operators through DOE's Better Building Alliance. So I encourage you all, please take advantage of it. On the global news front, so while most of the world's struggling to develop their 5G network infrastructure, this past week, China reportedly launched the world's first 6G satellite from the city of Taiyuan in the northwestern province of Shanxi. This satellite weighs in at about 150 pounds and is said to provide transmission speeds, data transmission speeds, up to 100 times faster than 5G. That's theoretically 30,000 megabytes per second. Now, how they're planning on using this, I really don't know. But from where I'm sitting, it looks like the world's got some serious catching up to do. Now, and here's a story from down under. Our Australian friends, they've quietly been developing some of the world's smartest building projects in the world. And this week's briefing spotlights one of Adelaide's smartest buildings, the 20-story GPO Exchange, which recently won the coveted IBCon 2020 Digi Award for the most intelligent office building. Charter Hall's the developer. They worked with consultant Null Strategies to architect the convergence of over 25 separate control systems, including self-service visitor management, smart lighting and monitoring, all electrical vehicle chargers. And this is all monitored via one unified data and building dashboard system. Altogether, it captures over 32,000 data points to monitor building and utility usage patterns. Kudos to Charter Hall and Null Strategies for bringing a comprehensive smart building vision to reality. And I think I'm out of time, so that's it for me, but there's more in store in our weekly briefing, so check it out.
Well, and thank you so much. I know how hard you and the team work to get that news condensed down to what's relevant, and then the report on it on this show is makes it even easier. So Howard, thank you so much, and you have a great day. Our wrapping our first our segment today, but before we do that and I close it out, I'm going to introduce one of our great sponsors, Corning. All right, so we are well into the month of November. The pandemic does not seem to be letting up. Building owners, operators, corporations trying to figure out how to get back into offices, back to work. We know technology is going to have a role, and I think that continuing this conversation and trying to iterate, have different opinions applied to this are going to be ultimately what result in solutions. Whether it be using technology at the front door to check somebody's temperature, blood pressure and others, or making sure that the air is clean, all the way to creating an environment that people are going to want to come back to, that's engaging and productive. It's an important conversation, and I just want to say thank you to our guests today. And next week, we're going to have two phenomenal guests, Henry Chamberlain, who's the president of BOMA, and Denise Froming, who's the CEO of IREM. Two of the world's leading property management companies are going to join us to tell us what their members are saying as in respect to getting back to work and the role that technology plays. So with that, I'd like to say goodbye, and everybody have a great day.